We're very pleased to welcome Fatima Batook on the main stage today. Fatma has been one of the original pioneers that has paved the way for Saudi women in sports since 2006 and actually before. She created Teema, the first Saudi Arab sports apparel brand in the Middle East in 2012, and established her own chain of spinning and fitness studios across the country and the region. Fatma's on the board of the Saudi Businesswomen's Executive Council in the Eastern Province Chamber of Commerce and sits on the boards of the Saudi Tennis Federation and Al-Qadsiah Football Club. Welcome, Fatma. I wanted to see if you could just begin by kind of setting the scene for us, telling us about your own journey with fitness and sports and where your passion stems from.
Well, I have a long journey and in sport and fitness. And if you've asked me when I was 18 years old or told me that, I'm going to be a reference to female fitness and sports in Saudi Arabia, I would laugh in your face. But it wasn't something that I had intended to get into. And especially at that age is because I was going through my whole personal transformation. And I was morbidly obese, didn't had any thought of fitness or exercising or movement. Even though I was surrounded with it a lot around me, but I was always in denial of that. And I had the opportunity to go through that transformation and meet so many people who inspired me and motivated me to get into this change. And I started with, and when I started with that, I started wanting to learn more of it because I realized that everything that I was told to do to lose weight was ridiculous. It was, don't eat, don't do this, don't do that, and it's all about suffering more than anything. And then I think at that point I started like peeling those layers of really comprehending why I ate the way I ate, why I rejected specific things in life. And it was like, a pure healing process more than anything because people come to me and say, what was your secret? What was your diet? I'm like, it was just really getting to know myself and then loving myself and appreciating it. And it's a whole another world. And then fitness played such a big role into that for me to come to that realization because very few people, I think, in my early 20s, this is all when I was 19, 20 years old, at that age would come to that kind of realization. And even people I know who are at my age today in their 40s don't want to face that either. So it's not something easy. And fitness and specifically sports is one of those things that really pushes you to the limit, pushes you to the edge and start making you question yourself and question everything. And you just want to either, move forward or give up or on yourself. But I think that's how I started my relationship with fitness and started gaining a lot of knowledge around it and wanted to re-educate everyone who was telling me what to do, what they should be doing. And that's how I started my journey in spinning classes. I'm now actually a master spinning instructor, which means that I can educate other instructors to become spinning instructors. I'm a 500-hour yoga teacher. I've done many different certifications when it comes to boxing, TRX, and everything. So I've tried everything, and then you stick to things that you like, at the end. And it was just really that. It was that personal transformation and the need for me to make everyone else understand. So when I came back with that knowledge, that's where it started. I never thought of it as a career, never thought into getting into a business, never thought of anything. It was just more of for me because I needed to maintain it and continue with that journey with myself. And then I wanted people to come on board, and that was it.
So transformation is clearly not a foreign concept to you. And as kind of the kingdom now is embarking on this journey of transformation within the sports industry, there's just been so much development there. How do you view this development? What's really propelling it forward, do you think?
I think just going back to where I was, and when I started this journey years ago before the transformation and before Vision 2030, it was a time where it was like a fight, a struggle. Let's do it, and it motivated us. I can't say it didn't. It was like, yes, we have to do it. I opened the studio in 2015. It was, I think, 2014 where we met the Minister of Sports, begging him for a license to allow women to go to fitness facilities like men. And I remember at that point, thinking that, okay, this is the minister was amazing. He said, yes, please, we should do this for women. Let's go ahead. And it was that easy, you know. And I always say the story, and I'm sure people would heard of the story from me before, is that I asked him, how are you just, why is it so easy? You know, why are you just saying yes? I thought it was going to be a bigger struggle than this. And he simply said, no one asked. He said there was no woman who came over to the ministry and asked for licensing for gyms. But I was like, okay. But at that time, and it was still a struggle. So he did say, yes, go ahead, let's start it, and let's try to create a legislation for it, because there was nothing. And we started in 2015, and at that time it was like a struggle to get women trainers, a struggle to get Saudi women to take it as a career, and it was the whole struggle of an ecosystem that wasn't available. And then now with this transformation that's happened, it's I'm gonna have to use this metaphor, but like now the ball is on our court, right? But it's just incredible, to see women in everything. It's in every type of sport you can imagine, and seeing women even opening up fitness facilities on every kind. I know men who are jealous from the women facilities. They come say, we don't have a boxing studio only for men, or a Pilates or a yoga or a specialist in just a stretch lab, or things like that. But I think we've really, taken it to the next level, and it's really because it's available and women are there and they want it, but that transformation just empowered us even more and more.
I mean, I've trained with you, and I'm just going to say, like, it's not easy. especially kind of pre Studio 55, and we were doing smaller classes together, and just Tabata, which is like relentless when you're the instructor. And so I just want to say that you are definitely an inspiration, and I love that you've been recognized for that. And so I think you've been recognized for your work in that space by getting elected to, or chosen to be part of different governance bodies, right? So thinking about your role in the Saudi Tennis Federation, your role in Al-Qadsiah, I'd love you to tell us a little bit more about the exciting progress of tennis in the country. Again, this is something we've talked about on the podcast. It's come to Saudi, especially for women, not without its controversy. So tell us about your experience with that and kind of what that role entails.
So the Saudi Tennis Federation, I'm a board member, so I'm part of the board. It's headed by Arij Mutabagani. The main goals of when we sat down, we're like, okay, this is going to be the first ever board for the Saudi Tennis Federation. Now there's clear laws and guidelines to what a federation is supposed to be. So we said, what is going to be our main goals? So we want to develop training programs to take players from a level of talent to elite. Today we have many talents in Saudi, but unfortunately they didn't have the systems and structures to support the performance of the elite athletes. So that's one of the biggest goals we have. And then also the other one, which we do a lot of, is enhancing the interest in tennis amongst the youth. So we work a lot with Sports for All, which is headed by Prince Khalid bin Walid. And it's basically community pop-up exercises, sports areas where there's all different sports, and we play a big role with them in tennis specifically to get the kids excited about it, and start grassrooting these talents from home. And then lastly and not least, but tennis is a global sport and a very big one, and the 2030 vision goals, attracting regional and international tourism is going to be, and hosting them in Saudi is going to be one of our major known events here, and which is going to create a lot of interest in the country, and a lot of interest in sports for Saudi athletes, and also for the global athletes, and for them to come to Saudi. So I think that it's been like literally we started from nothing, and to see where it is today is just really rewarding. Yeah.
A sort of step back follow-up question to that, because I think you touched on a lot of those themes. One of the things that people outside of Saudi Arabia talk about when they talk about Saudi Arabia's sports, it's like actually the thing that dominates the headlines because of all the Saudi investments into sports. But if you're following Saudi Arabia, that like completely misses the point on all of the developments happening for Saudis. When you hear like criticisms of sports washing or, criticisms about Saudi Arabia investing in sports internationally, do you cringe and think about all the developments that are happening locally? Like how do you react to that?
But I think it's just, my reaction would be, it's just easier for people who don't know us and have interacted with us, who actually came here, to say that. Because when you see a lot of money thrown into, PIF have done a lot of investments, which was great for us internally because it gave us the platform and opportunity to shine through. Like PIF has become partner with the ATP, which is the Association of Tennis, the Global Association of Tennis, for men and for women. And at that point, for us in Saudi Tennis Federation, we're like, yes, this is it. Now we can propel our strategies further. But I completely understand it, and I face this a lot. I have many people around, I know, in the sports scene, and when I meet other tennis federations, they're kind of like, oh yeah, so you're trying to improve your image now, and and all of that. And I'm saying, maybe it is part of it. I'm not going to deny it. We're happy that this is happening too, so we do want to improve our image. But it's just, I won't say that I cringe, but I always say that, come over and see it yourself. And and actually, as we speak, we're Saudi team for the first time are playing a Davis Cup in Jordan. Yesterday we won against Vietnam, so there is that happening, and we are trying as much as possible to communicate it to the world and see it, and we're trying to develop our own athletes. We're not there yet, but all of this is the ecosystem that we have in place right now is going to help us to move forward.
Maybe I actually want to ask a little bit more about that as well, in terms of the ecosystem and getting the athletes prepared and getting them ready to compete. Now that there is an awareness, and you've been a part of raising that awareness for women, but again, there's an awareness across the board within the kingdom on how important it is. There's been a lot more of these federations and organizations from a governance point of view putting these together in order to really kind of build whatever is needed in order to get people prepared. And that's not something people are talking about outside the kingdom much. I know that they're focusing on all sports, but can you tell us a little bit more about who is leading that initiative, and within each federation, what that looks like and what kinds of efforts are being made to get more people involved in different sports?
So there are so many there. I can't say there is one body or person who is really leading it. It's really a collective effort that's happening. So Sports for All is a big part of it because they're the ones who lead the way for the grassrooting. So we're talking about people who never touched a racket, never saw a ball. Come in, let's show you how to do that, like literally. And that's one part. And there's other bodies that are under the Ministry of Sports that work with ministries of Al-Qarawiyya, Al-Amanat, and things like that, like municipalities.
It's
So
municipal and rural affairs, I
and
believe.
yeah, so yeah, but basically, yeah, but that ministry works very close by with the Ministry of Sports to develop infrastructure, because that is the biggest thing. People want to play tennis. We don't have tennis courts, so how do we play tennis? But that's another on its own. Developing. There's a different body developing that, and then you have us who are in the federations who have the government facilities that are already in place that fall under also the Olympic Committee, because they want to develop the Saudi talents and athletes and get them trained to compete. And basically in those areas, that's where we are in, and we play a big role in it in terms of getting the correct technical teams, the trainers, the coaches, everything, and then ensure that we have and we do like different camps for them. So we take all those elite Saudi professional players, different age groups, make them play in different competitions, but that's also a full body that goes through it. So they do the local competitions, regional competitions, now going to the ATP Davis Cup competition. So it's like there is many small little efforts happening on different levels and trying to get these athletes ready.
I mean, can you share some stories about the types of struggles and some of the really more success stories from your participation in the federation?
So one of the stories is a young kid, 9 years old, who was in the little town outside Mecca, and there isn't the infrastructure for tennis courts there, or proper tennis courts. It was only like in private homes and all that. he had the opportunity to play with a friend who had the tennis court at home, and he went to there, and he was like 7 years old or something, and he just fell in love with it. And then he went on and on about it to his dad, like, I want to play tennis. It's like incredible. I want to do it. I want to do it. And this kid, like 2 years throughout that, his father started like just get rid of his nagging to pursue it, and found out there was like dusty old tennis courts available in these facilities. And he got in touch with them. He's like, okay, let me just get any trainer, let him to play. And in those 2 years, really developed a talent in the kid. He was discovered in one of these community activities that we've done with Sports for All. And like literally, we have our coaches there. They keep their eyes on for like talents and stuff. But they were looking at this kid, and it's like, this kid is a natural. And we got him there out of that, and and his father's like, really? His family didn't took it seriously. Now he's 12 years old. He's won 3 cups in his age group for Junior Cup regionally. He has so much potential, this kid. He's just an inspirational story to see someone from not the main city. And this is one story, but there are so many other stories who had the privilege of have tennis courts and who have their parents who played tennis, so it is very well embedded into them. And they have really done it on their own with zero support from anywhere for them to also compete. But there's so many different stories in common with tennis.
No, I love that. I mean, you need to create the opportunity, and getting it, I think it's so important to just talk about these stories on how we are getting young people involved. We're getting people involved for the first time ever in some of these sports because the opportunity is now there, and because there's kind of an investment in that space. So I think that, that side of the story definitely needs to be highlighted and told more. Maybe I wanted to actually pivot a little bit and think about just really how the landscape is changing inside the kingdom. So I was reading about the new sports law, which, the Saudi Ministry of Sport issued a draft sports law, which when formally passed, would be the first comprehensive law governing sports in the kingdom and replace the kingdom's 1987 basic law for sports federations and the Saudi Olympic Committee. So can you tell us a little bit more about this and kind of, how it's kind of formalizing the sports sector and increasing participation?
Is a federation a corporation or is a nonprofit? But that in terms of its legal entity, there was no clarity of it. But the main objective was to have clarity for these federations. And beyond that legal clarity, it was really to strengthen the framework for the elite and professional sports. Because the thing is that, we've had, but they weren't really supported in terms of ensuring that they have the right coaches, establishing like rules of arbitration, promoting fair competition, having disciplinary rules for doping and other sport violations. But these kind of things, there was no clarity for it. So even as an athlete, didn't feel safe to compete, or they didn't feel that they had clear parameters. So I think that was a big change in when they formalized those. One of the main goals from this was to ensure that the Ministry of Sport was granted authority to supervise these federations, verify compliance. So even us as Saudi Tennis Federation, we have to always verify with compliance with them, ensure that they're following whatever direction there is from them. But that made it very unified and also gave clarity to all the federations. And like you mentioned, the main objective of this was to increase participation. And to increase participation means that participation of the Saudis to get into sports, and also to make it attractive to foreign investments. So when there is a little bit more structure and regulations, foreign investments feel much more comfortable to invest also.
Was that a collaborative effort? I mean, like so many of the other laws that are happening in other sectors in Saudi Arabia that are being developed by the government now are done so in lockstep with the private sector because they really want the laws to not be opaque, and they want them to sort of land correctly and have everybody sort of fit in? Was that a collaborative effort from the Ministry of Sport and the other people that are working on it? And I assume that's all part of the vision's quality of life, sort of drive to make people healthier. Were they in touch with stakeholders in the private sector?
Yes, yeah. That I think the private sector played a very big role, and now with all the privatizations that's happening, more and more the government seeing the importance of private sectors being a stakeholder and having input, but they do play a very big role now.
So your track record really in making sports more accessible to women is tangible, first through Teema, your apparel brand, but also then through Studio 55. What has changed over the course of your journey?
But I think, women have changed a lot. And I think the bigger change is the families and the society that surrounds the woman, because I remember a time where we had a cycling group, and we started cycling. We'd cycle like at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning. And there was a girl who joined the group who was completely covered. And she loved cycling, and she would come and do a cycle with us all the time. And then a few times I haven't seen her, and I would ask around about her, and she won't be responding in the group that we're in. I called her up and I said, what's up? What's wrong with you? Where are you? You're not coming to cycling anymore. Are you okay? Injured? Blah, blah, and all that. She's like, no, my dad found out, and, he doesn't like me cycling. But I remember that was like, it just like killed me. And I'm like, no, you can't say that to me. Okay. So at that point, I'm like, okay, let me talk to your father. Let him make him feel safe that, we do it at a time that, there's no, it's not dangerous with cars. And I understand. And it's all girls, so he won't be, shouldn't be worried and all that. And she said, okay, you can give it a shot. And her father's a lovely guy, so I did speak to him. And he's like, I know, it's very kind of you. Thank you very much for calling. But no, it's not for me, And I was like, okay. And I said to him, do you exercise? Do you do anything? And he's like, I walk sometimes. I do walking. I'm a very, walker. I said, okay. I said, can I get one of my friends to contact you to try cycling? He's like, oh, yeah, okay, why not? Yeah, let him contact me. But I got another male cycling group to contact the father. And he went cycling with them. Like after I told him, keep on nagging on him. He needs to cycle. He needs to understand why his daughter's doing it. And I said, I'll give you anything. Actually, I did promise him something if he was able to get him on the cycling group. And he did. And he went on the cycling group, and the father just fell in love with it. And he was coming close to retiree, so he just felt like this is perfect for him. And he loves mornings and all that, and they went all out in the mornings. But he kept on coming. But he was the oldest guy on the cycling group, and he started getting better and better and better every week, doing longer stretches, and all of that. Then they do these trips outside, and he wants to go travel. So then I gave him a call, and I told him, I heard that you're on the cycling group now. And he said yes. And he told me, and by the way, I'm going tomorrow cycling with my daughter. And I was like, okay. And he said, and you're most welcome to join. And I said, okay. And I remember that we met up and we went together, and then the father came to me and he's like, I just want to say thank you. I didn't know what it meant to my daughter. And she's free to go cycling as much as she wants to, and and now and I want to do it also with my daughter. It's like our time together, because now everyone in the family doesn't get us, now they're both the cyclists. But this story is like in 2016, and today move forward to 2024, that I'm sure these stories still exist, but you'll see that there's just so much more appreciation for sports now from families. 2 days ago, we did a 5-day camp in Qadisiyah for the Girls Academy. And we told the mothers to come in like that. And then the mothers who came in their abayas, and then they come in and they have like their tea and coffee and watch their girls play. And then, they at the end of the game, and it was so hot, it was so humid, and the mothers are like, well, we want to play too. And then the manager of the girls' academy, she's like, yes, sure, of course, let's go. And and they were like running and playing, and they're like, oh my God, they were experiencing itself like this is such a different language that we haven't seen. And it happened so quickly in such a short time, so fast. To see that, and you say it takes a generation. It didn't even take a generation. Literally, it was the same generation. They were here. They moved here. Like, okay, now we can do this. It's allowed. We can do it. We support it. But it's just incredible to see what women are doing today, and how. And I think that the bigger thing is how the family support around it is.
That's very moving and really a great story and a great sentiment to share. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about that then, Al-Qadsiah and like you were saying, there's the younger club. How is that? First of all, congratulations on the rebrand. Congratulations on your board appointment. It's all very exciting. So tell us a little bit more about Al-Qadsiah Football Club.
So Al-Qadsiya, it's a football club, and we also say it's a community sports club. So it's an SCC. We have football, obviously, is the main sport of the club, but we have over 17 sports for women, and I think around 22 sports for men. And we've won many medals in those different sports, in water polo, wrestling, like so many different sports. And even fencing, we had Saudi women who won the fencing. But I think, there's so many, for me personally, when me getting into Qadisiyah, first of all, I was like very, very, honored to be. I just felt like, okay, they really have recognized me at this point when I've been appointed to this, and especially that it's an Aramco-owned company right now. So when I got into it, I was blown away to see how much effort that went on in this club, in the different sports. And when we go talk about football, like literally the female football team was non-existent a year ago. So it was just a year ago, and we won 4th place in the league, which is incredible. They built a team in less than a year, and they built an academy, and now in the academy we have 4 different age groups under the age of 11, 13, 15, and 17. So, with these, just developing talent, basically developing talent for the main football team that we have. But that academy on its own is just incredible to see. But it's just incredible to see what's going on right now, and in every aspect of sports for women. Really, and you know what? Because like growing up, that's something that I really wanted. When you're as a kid, you see, all these, and I had a little access of that because, we were living in a compound, and so we had that sort of access where, we had access to the American school, so I went to Girl Scouts, and I had like a little bit of basketball growing up and things like that. But this is now all Saudis, parents, kids coming into this club, with their gear, and I just look at them, I'm like, oh my God, this is a dream come true. Like really a dream come true now.
And how about the trainers? Are they Saudi as well, or are you able to is there a mix? How does the recruitment process work there?
So mainly the trainers are expats. They come, the head of the girls team is from Greece, and she was on the national team of the women's Greek team. But unfortunately, we don't have that much of history in sports, perhaps, to have those talents in Saudi. They are working very hard with the Ministry of Education to, have different kind of sport management and in universities and colleges and stuff like that. But mainly, most of them are expats, and you will see also there are some homegrown talents that have played a very big role also specifically in female football for women. Baram al-Butairi is one of them, so someone that I really have very high respect for. So there are the Saudis, they're not. They are available, but very scarce. Yeah.
So I'm super curious about Al-Qadsiah, and in 2023, there was sort of a change in the Saudi Football Federation, and some teams were acquired by the PIF, and Al-Qadsiah became part of Aramco. And the team has sort of gone back and forth between the First League and the Pro League for a few decades, it really looks like. Is this kind of like a new dawn? I mean, Hannah was like, you have to check out this celebration that's happening in the Eastern Province. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then I looked at a video. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a Dubai New Year's celebration thing going on. Is there like a bright future going ahead for Al-Qadsiah, do you think?
Ambitions are high. It's so exciting. Like, I can't describe how exciting it is to be part of it. Al-Qadsiah being Aramco owned, and going back to your point about, the PIF investing in the four top teams, they own 75% stake in those teams. And before that, in 22, when PIF had acquired Newcastle, who was bottom second in the English Premier League, and then we finished at fourth season. So I think, with all of that, the ambition is so high, and Aramco taking over this is a very big step, because Aramco doesn't do sports, right? They do oil and everything else, but the sports is completely different. But they're putting a board of directors up for the Qadisiyah as a separate company is a great move from Aramco, and the ambition is high, the investments are high, but we're also very realistic. Now that we have been promoted to the Premier League, of course, everyone is expecting us to get in the best players. I'm getting messages and calls from everyone. Oh, who's your next player? Who's your coach? Oh, Mourinho visited the Isra for the Spark event, and they're like, "Oh, you're signing Mourinho as a coach." We're like, "We're not signing with Mourinho. We're not, but the expectations are also very high too. And Al-Qadsiah, as it's an old club, old for Saudi, 1967, and people in Khabar town it has a following that is incredible. But you have people who are like in their 70s, 80s, they're hounding me down saying, "We want to win, huh? We're going to win the next game." And I'm like, okay, it's not me, But the pressure is very high. But I'll tell you, we're super realistic. We're very excited. We're very ambitious. Our focus right now in the next 3 to 5 years is to build a team, and to build that team, and not building a team of getting the best names out there or the top players out there, but is creating that team spirit and developing that culture that is going to really differentiate us from everyone else. But that's really our biggest focus. We're targeting to be in the second five of the top 15 in the Saudi Premier League. So inshallah, we'll see. But that's where we are. It's very exciting now that even we've relaunched the branding of Qadisiyah. So we're trying to really, step up the game and get in action too. But it's super super exciting. I feel like
Fatma,
I'm
were
Ted
you
Lasso now.
always? I love that. Were you always a Qadisiyah fan?
I think, and growing up, it was like the family team, I have to say. But now I am hardcore Qadisiyah. Yeah.
Well, so we were talking about this, and I was like, it's not really like I was super excited for it, and especially because, like, again, now Aramco is investing in it. The rebrand and the celebration was amazing, and I actually know a lot of the board members, so that makes me excited too. But like, it wasn't my team growing up, and so I don't know enough about the rivalries. And how does that feel?
What's your team again?
Ittifaq.
Ittifaq. Yeah.
But like, how intense is that rivalry?
God, it's intense.
Okay, see,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I didn't realize how intense it is till I got
Thank
into
you.
it. Because,
Okay, so not just
so when I get now, like my ex feed is all that, so I keep on following that, and I'm like, whoa, my God, these people are intense. And you have like, I have one of our board members is from Al-Zabad, and I met another Zabad who was in an Ittifaq, and he's saying that, oh, so now you're Qadsawiya. And I'm like, aren't you? You're like, your cousin's with us, And for him, he was like, no, we're not. When we come to that, we don't talk about it. I'm like, okay, that's up. But it is intense in that perspective, and Ittifaq is in the Premier League, so that's going to put even more pressure.
yeah. Okay, I don't know. I know more about the English Premier League rivalries just because this is what I live and breathe with my son at home. And he can tell me a little bit more about the Saudi Premier League because of FIFA and like playing it on online. But obviously the sentiment, you don't get that until you're in the middle of it. And it wasn't something I talked about much. Like I could see my dad get really excited when I was younger about like the Tifag playing, but I mean that's kind of
I think it's time to make a switch, Hannah. I think you got to switch over.
No, God, no. Hardcore اتفاقية. خلاص. I'm going to learn what that's supposed to look like too.
You started a female-only or a female-owned sporting and athletic, athleisure, I guess you would say, brand before like women were really participating in sports in public. So like, how did you... That's like super fascinating. How did you market it? And can you tell me about that experience?
I am a person who is not very fashionable. I mean, I'm like black, white, very neutrals. Yeah, I'm not a person who comes out with a fashion. So for me to say that, people come to introduce me like, oh, she has a fashion brand, I'd be like, oh, no, don't say fashion, But the reason why it came up is because in 2012, there was like a crackdown on all the non like if any activity that is happening under a license that it doesn't match was closed. So for example, you have a Moroccan bath happening in a beauty salon, but they don't have that activity within it, they're going to close down the Moroccan bath. And what fell part of it was also fitness facilities, but there weren't any legal fitness facilities, but under a umbrella of a women's center or an English learning center, they would have a little area with a gym or whatever equipment. So, and at that time, and when I came, and I'm telling you, I came back to Saudi and I wanted to like educate people about what I found out about exercising and all that. I used to use those places, to reach to these women because there are women who are already going to exercise. And that's where I had developed like my skill of coaching and training. And I was doing this as a part-time thing. So when they closed down all these places, I became very furious. And at that point, X, which then was Twitter, was a very active platform until today. And I started like saying that, we have to have clarity. We can't close down these places and not even know how we're going to reopen them. Where are women going to exercise? We can't do it outdoors. And I started to become very vocal about it. And then unfortunately, that when I saw the response on Twitter, I was getting negative response from women more than men, saying, "Who do you think you are? Like, you were Western ideas. You want to have women wearing shorts and music, and like they pictured it in a very horrible way." And I was like, I was just really hurt by it, and it really escalated to the point where I literally closed myself at home. I didn't leave home. I was really depressed. I was like, okay, that's it. I'm not going to talk about it. I had family members calling me up and saying, can you like stop talking about this thing? It's not really important. And, and like literally I had family members. I'm like, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not opening a legal nightclub. It's a female only fitness facility. I think that was very frustrating. But that, and then literally the idea of Teema came up because the one thing in all the era of Saudi women they're good at is fashion. They love to dress up. Even, what's her name? The one Under the Abaya. I don't know if you've ever got her books. She does these different editions
Maryam,
of Under the
Maryam
Abaya.
mostly.
Maryam Mossadegh, yeah, Maryam
Yeah.
Mossadegh. But she has, like, literally, I said that's the epiphany of Saudi women. Women are covered here because of the Abaya, not as much as before now, but they were always very fashionable. So even the ones who are not going to the gym, they will have fitness apparel that made them look good. But then I used this as a story, or like that was my anchor of saying that why a Saudi brand for fitness? Why? Because of this story. But it became my tool to reach to women, and it was incredible of how many women who reached out because I started developing these styles and designs from women that I trained. And I called them, like, I had a faith line because of a lady called Iman, which means faith in Arabic. I had like different lines of light, Noor, but different like names of girls, women that I trained from all around, and they, and that's where the lines came from. What they preferred, what colors, and all of that. And then suddenly I get reached out from women in Jizan and like south of Saudi Arabia, which I've never been to at that time, and they're telling me, "Oh, we want your apparel here." And I'm like, "Why? Why do you exercise there? Do you have gyms?" Like, no, but we try to do something at home, and it'll be great to have it, and we want to wear something that's Saudi and share that story. So it became that, and it just like really snowballed from there.
Yeah, Mabruk, that's such a cool story. And sharing stories like yours in general is why Hannah and I are doing this podcast. So thank you very much, because this was really, really amazing.
A wonderful privilege to have you on today, and we really appreciate your time and your insights.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time. I really enjoyed it.